old yet, as he is here. Yet, those of us 10, 11, 12 years older than him are so proud of being associated with him at Lekki Central Mosque that the way, the likes of Abu Bakr and all of those were much older than the prophets. Yet, they were so proud to be seen in company of the prophet. That is the same kind of effect that he has on the lives of all of us. And whenever they would announce that this lecture is taking place here and that is taking place there, and in the 4 years that I've been back in Nigeria, I very rarely hear his name mentioned anywhere. I mean, I'm still unable to say which language he speaks better, English, Yoruba, or Arabic. I am truly unable to say, because you need to listen to him speak in Yoruba as well, and you won't hear a word of English come into it. So it's, as part of the strategies that we have listened to today, it is an obligation on us to promote the lives of him.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I'm so constrained by this time of my meeting. I just want to refer us, for few of us that were in the lorry, and compare an aspect of this lecture with an issue that was unresolved. Our Imam has told us the need for us to plan, to re-strategize, and possibly prepared for execution. Alhamdulillah, companion and criterion were more or less product of MSS, when MSS was its real MSS. Companion is now running away from problem of MSS and establish it done, thinking that the problems in the MSS will not come back to us, thinking that we are forgetting where we are coming from. Where are we going? The companion. What are we doing to reposition MSS as we met it and as some of us left it? Where are we going? As Muslim Ummah, what is our strategy to combat most of the terrible plans against our children? Some of us think because we live in Lekki, we live in the special area. So my thinking is that the companion should go back to his planning strategy and think ahead. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Ìmáàmù láti Mushin, mo gbé Mushin fọ́dún 12. Ìmáàmù jẹ́ barista, mo jẹ́ ìyá barista. Lẹ́yìn ṣe wo Hijrah, níjọ́ tí mo ti pinnu láti change Hijrah from historical, mo wá sọ di practical. Practical tẹ máa sọ di, tó bá yẹ pé èèyàn ń wo àwọn ìwà kan tó ò fẹ́ wù mọ́, wàá wá ní mo fẹ́ ṣe Hijrah. Níbi ìwà yìí, mo fẹ́ bọ́ sí ìwà yìí. That's number one. So, mo rí Hijrah gẹ́gẹ́ bí movement, mo rí bí change, mo rí bí relocation. Mo wá ṣàkíyèsí láàrin àwọn Mùsùlùmí fún 40 years tí mo ti wà pẹ̀lú yín. Àkíyèsí mi nìyẹn ni wípé we are looking at Islam as if it's an individual religion. Islam is a community religion. So that to go back to community based, pay wa. Nígbà tí mo dé oko òbí kan tí mo gbé sí, mo wá ní ìsọ́kà wípé tẹ bá dé àwùjọ, tán bá ní àwọn ọmọ bóyá wọn kówó jẹ, àbáwọn kan ṣe nǹkan tí ò dáa. Tí àwọn èèyàn bá wà ńbẹ̀, wọn ò ní sọ ọ̀rọ̀ tó jọ mọ́ ẹ̀sìn, nǹkan míì náà máa sọ. Ntí mo wá ṣe community tí mo dé ìgbésùná korúkọ community yẹn níjọ́ tí mo wá kọ́kọ́ lọ sí meeting wọ́n ní mùsùlùmí kówó jẹ mo ní ṣọlẹ́ mi tó rí fún márùn ní fún márùn obìnrin tí àwọn tó kówó jẹ tó bá yẹ pé kèfèrí àbí kiri yóò ló kówó jẹ tó bá yẹ pé punishment wọn tó bá yẹ pé ẹyọ kan èmi tí mo dúró yìí in my own capacity máa fún ẹ ní punishment márùn mo wá sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kínní mo sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kejì. Wá màmá wa ẹ má jẹ́ ká sọ kí ní ìdọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀sìn oníbàbọ̀ ọkọ mi ọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀sìn ni ó gbé wa dé ibi tá a wà àwa ò fún wọn joyè lásán àwa mùsùlùmí làwa sọ̀pọ̀ tí wọ́n tó fi joyè so tẹ́ bá ti mọ̀ pé kò ní jẹ́ ọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀sìn ẹ yọ wọn kúrò ní chairman tọ́ba tí wàá lọ jẹ́ chairman yẹn tí kì í ṣe orúkọ pé Riskat Yusuf lórúkọ wọn tó yẹ pé Israel àbí Joseph ó dà wọ́n kó ló jẹ́ mi ò ní sọ̀rọ̀ kan màá ní kó máa kó lọ so not until tá a bá sọ Hijrah the practical things not until tá a bá go back to Medina TV ní Islam tó lè lálàáfíà ní Muslim tàwa gan la máa tó wà ìjọ náà because our faith is in really threat yẹn ó lè wá ga inú mi dùn wípé bàbá wa ìmáàmù wọn mú ẹnu bà ohun tí mo mẹ́nu bà nígbà táwọn òbí ní péjọ ẹ má dùn wípé àpéjọ ọ̀dà kọ́kọ́ ká tó wá bá yín bí so my dear brothers and sisters I really appreciate my brother the next speaker please.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very close to the prof here, and it's not just the prof, it's a professor of medicine. I'm sure they should try and take my BP. It will be very high now. And that is because of this lecture that I'm listening to, and the effect it's having on me as a person. And it has to do with this, the meaning we are expected to give to Hijrah. It is the same reason why some of our brothers and sisters will leave some jobs, some works, to go for other places. For example, our brothers and sisters are about to do Hijrah from the banking industry, Usrah. Our brothers and sisters are about to leave public services because if you happen to be at the top and you happen to be in finance and account and you want to be a Muslim, it will be almost impossible. And so the next thing, when you listen to this type of lecture, is let me make Hijrah and leave this job. And many others like that. And it's the same reason why some of our brothers and sisters are not into politics. Because the politicians will tell you, it's a dirty game, it's all of this. And I have this high blood pressure now. That shall we continue to make Hijrah to leave? The good ones will leave, for the bad ones to continue to be in control. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, in the course of the brother's lecture, he was trying to tell us about doing Hijrah from where we probably are in the minority to the place where we'll be in the majority, where we'll be supported by other Muslims. But I tend to think that our issue is not about being a minority, but rather the fact that there's something probably fundamentally wrong with our position. Because if you look at the Muslims in the Western world, the way they are organized, the way they do their things, and the kind of freedom and attitude they give them, tends to suggest that there's probably something fundamental. I stand to be corrected. That's why I'm asking the form of the question. Is it to do with the fact that we're in the minority? Because when we're in the majority, we tend to even take things with laxity.
Okay, number 3.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. As a parent and as a brother as well, in the past, I always support my daughters and sons, my younger ones, to serve in the north. I arrived back in this country about 10 years ago. So the safety issue now, but in the past, they said, I don't want to go to north. I know when they come back from the north after serving, they always, practice their Islam very, very well, much better. But nowadays, contemporary issue that's happening in our country, the issue of requirement. So most parents, sincerely, that's the fact that's going on, don't feel happy allowing their children that was going to the north to serve. So, just now.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is about using hijab in public secondary school. How far have you using what? Hijab in public secondary school. Okay.
My questions are two. One is Islamic Council for Islamic Affairs. Are they really handling the situation of the Muslim in Nigeria or other people else? And CIO, what are the two groups doing as a leadership for the Muslim? The second aspect of my question is our leaders, mostly our leaders in some of these, our parastatals, the corporate affairs, and etc. They are also part of the problems that we constitute. Instead of them to carry along the banner of Islam, they carry their own self-desire. What is the situation in this ground?
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Yes, my question was this, and it's not necessarily very related to what we discussed here. So, okay. What does Islam say concerning participating in competitions that have a cash prize? Participating in competitions that have a cash prize, and how the competition is based on merit. So, what are the acceptability to Islam? Okay.
My question is, given the Nigerian situation, we have very, very few number of Muslims are presently working with lots of dependents. Could we just open our doors and say because of some inconveniences here and there, we just advise that they leave the workplace, or should we go back to the drawing board and plan very well and strategize? Because we are very few on the field. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Now, my question is to do with the Eid that we just finished. I know, you know, the Christians, or it is actually in the Bible, that it was Ishaq, it was Isaac, that Ibrahim was asked to sacrifice, whereas the Muslims believe that it was Ismail. So, you being a student of comparative religion, how do we know we are right, or how do we reconcile the two? Salam alaikum.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. I have a written question here. The person has requested maybe completing some things I mentioned about the advice of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal depicting Islam, the religion of Muhammad, as a religion of precedent, and that the best path a wise man can follow in practicing Islam successfully is to follow the path of precedent. He also advised that let you not be deceived regarding the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and those among the scholars who speak by it, who adduce it, who teach it, because your opinions and your ideas are nothing but darkness and night, but it is only the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that is the day and light. And that perchance if you are lost in the path of the deen, if you walk with the light of the hadith, it's going to appear to you and illuminate your path. But you cannot walk with your own conjectures and guesses or opinions. That was all about that. And I also mentioned in the, that is about that the issue of Hijrah is a manifestation of certain principles of Allah which cannot change. And that the situation of our predecessors will also not be different from ours. And I mentioned some of such principles, one of which is one, Allah must try. And upon trial, he must sort out. Through trial, he does the sorting. Sorting means to separate the real from the fake. And even among the real, he will also sort us out in order to determine the great. You know, there are believers and there are also believers. We surpass one another. Trial is the process through which Allah achieves sorting. And after he has sorted us out, then he grants you establishment. Whoever has not gone through these two processes is very unlikely to be firm and established in the deen. And that I made a conclusion that if you see our predecessors, I mean the generation of the companions, demonstrate that high level of faith, it is probably because as well they also went through greater trials, and the sortings which Allah did for them in their own case represented a far higher standard than we have in our own case. I also spoke about 3 other sunnah of Allah as well, which we should also, which are also, it's compulsory. That situation
situation of man, and that is the sunnah of Tagir. I spoke that Allah doesn't perpetuate a situation with anybody perpetually. And He has also made you making effort to change your situation a condition precedent as well to Allah's help. There will always be change. And there will always be what we call mudawala, that is tadawul, rotation of situations. You experience different things at different times. And your ability to be constant at all times, regardless of what you go through, really makes you a better Muslim. And it is at that point that you achieve the victory of Allah. What the contemporary Muslims do not appreciate is really that we want to have it smooth. Someone was telling me yesterday that some people are making a case out of the fact that our brother Aremu Gawat was missing. That what is the dua of the Muslims no longer efficacious? What is the, upon all these days that you've been praying, God has not revealed to you where He is, and He has not surfaced in terms of all your prayers. And I responded that they should please tell the person who's supposedly a non-Muslim that, okay, we have agreed that our own prayer is not efficacious. You make the prayer and produce him out. If you can do that instantly, and then, inshallah, we leave our faith and we come to join you. Just, you see, what we must understand is that the principles of Allah don't change, regardless of the love that Allah has for the individual involved. Allah has chosen Islam for us. He has preferred Islam for us as a faith. But there are things we have to understand, that unless, of course, we are prepared and we are proactive in responding to situations that face us at one time or the other, we don't just expect the help of Allah to come, when, of course, we are not also paying the price. The price is for us to resolve. And then I also spoke about the help of Allah is also not always accidental. It is always a product of preparation, it's a product of strategy. And I quoted a verse, وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ, prepare against them all that you can in terms of power. Min quwwa. The word quwwa is that in that verse is a nakira, and that means it is open-ended. All things that you can call power, intellectual, economic, military, without any execution. You should be powerful enough so that when you parade your strength, turhibuna bihi aduwallah, the enemy of Allah should become ordinarily terrified. You don't have to strike at the adversary before the adversary recognizes your power. Allah says we should amass to ourselves enormous power, which upon parading it is enough to send signals to our adversaries that you do not dare the Muslims. This was the level in which our early predecessors were able to position themselves, to the extent that it took only a community there to know that Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, you know him, that famous army of the Prophet ﷺ, who had a lot of conquests under the Khilafah of Umar bin al-Khattab. Many people surrendered even for this army. Oh, the army of Khalid and the Muslims, inshallah, let's come to a round table. Okay, what is it? That was the end. Because the Muslims were so enormous then. So we really have to go to that. But if that corruption consumes you, your good intention to make da'wah will not be an excuse to Allah. Are you there? So that is just the plain truth. I have to be there and make the change, and then you are also partaking in it in order to be there. That is not it. If you have to remain, you have to be strong enough to ensure that you do not partake, and if Allah makes it. The same thing goes for politics. I think I should just take the two together. If we should leave politics for the rogues, then it will mean that we are leaving the bad people to govern us. But really, this theory is arguable. Number one, I don't think it is until one is in politics before we can make a change. I want to believe that you may not necessarily have to use the political office. Let's talk about that. Why not start by organizing ourselves into pressure groups that will always hold the leaders accountable. If in the course of that pressure groups now graduates or metamorphosizes into a political structure, then you will be working with people then with whom you have the same idea. I don't see, except of course if it's an appointment that will not in any way make me play the game the way of the politicians. I'm not speaking for everybody, but one can speak for himself. One can work with the state. I'm not saying you shouldn't take any appointment or do this, but if you have to do it and there is no way you have to play the game in the usual way, Allahu Alam. It's easy to say something is darura, but let me tell you that most of the people who will eventually find themselves in hellfire will be there on account of overstretching two things. Are you there? Yeah. Issue of darura, saying you have found yourself in a situation of extreme necessity. And we say ad-darurat tubihul mahdurat. If you find yourself in a situation of necessity, some things which are haram can likely be halal. But do you know, sometimes we are hurried in coming to this conclusion. What we call darura most of the times may not amount to darura before Allah. Because He knows your endurance ability that He has given you. Have you exhausted it? Many a times we have not. We are simply not prepared to face any inconvenience at all. That is why we are quick at it. The other case is for us to be meddling with ambiguous things. Things whereupon there is controversy. Scholar A says it's halal. Scholar B says it's haram. Those are the things you need to keep yourself distant from in order to keep yourself, your faith safe. But whoever indulges so much in those two things will hardly make it in the hereafter. If something is darura, let it be until and unless nothing practically possible can be achieved. There is no other way, no other means, except of course to do that thing. Then we will agree that that has been a darura. That as an ummah, generally speaking, we should have some representation at all classes, at all sectors of our economy that are relevant to our existence as an ummah. That may be a necessity. That we can't say that completely Muslims should shun the politics. But that is generally speaking on behalf of the ummah. But you as an individual now, you still have another assignment. I don't know whether I'm talking sense. Yes, yes. That it is a necessity for the ummah to be represented in the politics. Yes. It is a necessity for the ummah to be represented in all important spheres in order to further the collective aspiration of the ummah. Yes. But you see, for this necessity to now rest on an individual raises some other questions that are personal to you in person. Have you examined yourself? Do you have the ability? Can you resist the temptation? Are you disciplined enough? Check your niyyah and intention. Are you going for Allah or you are going for yourself? All these are the issues. If really we can have an ideal case where a Muslim can say, no, we have to go. But I think if we can start the way our predecessors started, we will achieve it. And that is why we always advise, ibda'u bima bada'a bihi Allah wa bima bada'a bihi Rasul. Start the way the Prophet and Allah and His Messenger started. And how was that? They dissociated themselves from the other they met. They professed a faith and they took a path which completely was not in agreement with the other they met. And they began to organize themselves into a group that is mounting some pressure on the existing order. They faced the situation and at the end of the day, Allah granted them victory. We have Christians' voices louder in civil rights, in human rights struggle, we have more Christian social critics of the government than you have of the Muslims. I think even if Muslims are going to be involved in politics, let us not leave the individual Muslims to take this decision on their own. I think it is better for us to be organized. Let us amalgamate societies, like minds, map out strategies. We have to be there. That is a darura, like I said. But I think it's going to be easy if we have in the politics people who see themselves as ambassadors of Islam. That will be better for us than people who fought their ways there and are only managing to identify with Islam. And if you overemphasize on Islam today, they will simply tell you it is not with the ticket of the Muslims that I'm enjoying here. And that answers all the questions. What will I say? Background for it. Yes, we can be in AC together and there can be an Islamic caucus within the ACN. You can be in PDP, then there can be another caucus. Which caucus is more concerned about Islamic interests? And when anything is on the table, you must first of all look at it from how or in what way is Islam affected by this, or what interest has Islam in this thing, so that at the end of the day, you'll be really representing Islam. But the ones that we are doing really are not seeing a serious effort at all. Allah Adam. Celebrating Hijrah, will it be there? Yes, it will be. Without, it's not the Sunnah. Hijrah was never celebrated in the time of the Prophet, and that was the first point we made, that no matter how beautiful, no matter how nice or good an innovation is, it still remains an innovation. That is how Shaitan takes you on. If you can start with Hijrah, you go to another thing, and at the end, you forget your Sunnah, and then you'll be on a different religion. Somebody also expressed a disagreement that being a minority in a community which is non-Muslim majority does not necessarily mean that one is strengthening them, or maybe there may not necessarily be need for Hijrah in those societies. You see, however we look at it, we are just not being realistic. All those communities having Muslim minorities among them, I'm not saying it's haram completely. But what we are saying is, yes, even Muslims have to be in non-Muslims land, at least to carry the message of Islam there. We had that in the time of our predecessors, where the Prophet ﷺ would even pull some of them to land and then preach, and then they get established there, and Islam also was propagated. That is not what we are saying. But we are a Muslim who is of substance, well read, well learned, well endowed, now leaves a country where is a source of strength for the Muslim brothers, and now goes into another country and is living there, also investing and contributing to the progress and development of that place. But of course, is so weak so that it cannot even make any difference at all for Islam. Unless, of course, it becomes so critical. That is something we should not be enjoying. We all know that one of the factors that is contributing to underdevelopment of the developing country is what we call what? Brain drain. Those countries that are giving you free visa, they are not doing you a favor. They are exploring the potentials in you to develop their own economy, to structure their country, and deny your own mother country the opportunity of taking benefit from that. If you can be more patient and you can endure, even in this country, as bad as it is, and you can be faithful and loyal, we would have gone farther than we are now in this country. So what Ibn Abbas said, which I related earlier, and I think is the truth, that Muslims who are contributing to growth and development of non-Muslim countries are simply increasing them in strength. And that it is better that Muslims, and even if you must be there, assuming you even have to find yourself there, that will have to also make it compulsory and important that you get yourself so organized so that even as that minority, you still can be together. You don't exist, in isolation. But unfortunately, that's not what we are seeing. Even in UK, you still have all this associationism still really dividing the Ummah there. And then you also have nationalities as well, dividing them. Pakistani Muslim, Indian Muslim, Arab Muslim, all are existing in different communities. So, Wallahu Alam, I think there is a lot of wisdom in that if we can also think about that. Yes, the state of the